One of our favorite cookies to make with the sourdough discard is snickerdoodles, because you know how you have to use cream of tartar in the recipe to make snickerdoodles. Well, this is our family favorite recipe, and when you add the sourdough discard to it, it makes that little tang that the snickerdoodles have. It like elevates it to like next level deliciousness. And here's the cool thing. Several years ago, I asked my father-in-law, who is an amazing cookie maker. I asked one of our aunts, also an amazing cookie maker. One of my sister-in-laws loves cookies. I asked all of them, what's your favorite snickerdoodle recipe from the family? And they all sent me the same recipe. And it's this recipe. And then I went and added sourdough discard, which quite honestly just made it next level. So this is the Welk family recipe with sourdough discard added in, and here's all the tricks to how we make it.
The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cream your 1 cup of room temperature butter with 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. You want this to be nice and fluffy, so I let the beater work on it for about a minute. Then we're going to add in the eggs and let those get real incorporated before we add in our sourdough discard. Now you can use discard cold from your fridge, or you can use it like fluffy and happy. You had extra from when you fed some starter to like bake something. Either way that you use it is going to be fine. It's not going to mess the recipe up whether it's cold or it's fluffy. But you want to make sure that your butter, your sugar, and your eggs are incorporated really well. Then put your bowl onto your scale and just measure out 60 grams of sourdough discard. The reason that I like to use the scale when I do the sourdough discard is because depending on how fluffy and active your sourdough discard is right now, it will fill a different amount of space, but we want to make sure that you're using 60 grams. So use your scale. That's the only part of this recipe that I use the scale. And then I go back to my teaspoons and tablespoons and cups. So once your sourdough discard is incorporated into your butter, sugar, and eggs, add in the dry ingredients. And I start with the baking soda and the salt, and then I do the cream of tartar. And those things get incorporated into that butter sugar mixture before we do the flour. This helps you make sure that those smaller elements are all mixed in really good. Then add your flour in. So I just run the beater for a minute, maybe, getting the salt, baking soda, and cream of tartar mixed in, and then we're going to add our flour in. And for this recipe, you are going to do 2 3/4 cup of flour. While my flour is getting incorporated, I get a baking sheet out and I put a piece of parchment paper on it. You could use wax paper if you want. I do this because we are going to portion out the cookie dough onto this baking sheet because it needs to chill. Don't bake these without chilling them. They bake up so much better if they're given a chance to chill. So this is my favorite cookie scoop. I'm putting the link to it down in the description below, along with the link to my absolute favorite red rubber spatula. I use it for all of my baking stuff. And if you want a big Mondo KitchenAid mixer, I'm putting the link to that below as well, because we have the 8-quart bowl, which allows us to do really big batches. This is just a regular size batch of cookie dough. It'll fit in any mixer bowl that you have, but you're going to want to portion out all of the dough, every single bit of it, and put it in the fridge to chill. Or if you are like us, I like to actually put some of these in the fridge to chill, and then the rest of this baking sheet actually goes into the freezer, and I let the dough balls freeze, and I'll show you how I store them later. But they can just stay in your freezer, and then you bring them out of the freezer when you're ready to bake. You let them rest on a baking sheet until you can press a dimple into them, like they're not room temperature, but they have thawed, and then you can have fresh cookies anytime you want. So what I do is I mix up the the cinnamon and the sugar. It's 2 tablespoons of cinnamon to 4 tablespoons of granulated sugar. I mix it up in a mason jar because I don't bake the whole batch all at one time, which means that amount of cinnamon and sugar mixture is more than we need for just one tray, but there's no need for it to go to waste. I roll all of the cookies in it, put them in the oven, and then I save this cinnamon and sugar mixture, pull it out next time we want to make a batch of cookies. And here's what they look like when you pull them out of the oven. I let these sit on the tray and they cooled completely on the tray. You don't have to do this, but I did it because I wanted to show you how amazing this cookie spatula is. It's really flexible and you can slide it under the cookies even if they get a little bit stuck. So the link to that is down below, plus the link to our Red Tin Treat e-cookbook. And I give you permission to print it out. It does not have this Snickerdoodle recipe in the e-cookbook. It doesn't have sourdough recipes in it. It's full of all of our favorite baked goods. And I'm going to tell you that our family knows baked goods. So you're going to want the ebook. Click on down to the description. You can get that for all of your baking in the months to come. And here's how I save those frozen cookie dough balls. I literally just roll up the whole piece of parchment paper, pop it into a bag that I have labeled Snickerdoodle Cookies because sometimes it's hard to tell. Are these Snickerdoodles? What are these? Obviously they're not chocolate chip. You would see chocolate chips in them, but label your bag, put these in the freezer, and you can have fresh sourdough Snickerdoodle cookies anytime you want. Happy baking, friends. We hope that your kitchen and your table is just filled with the joy and goodness of life together.